Hello, everybody. This is Empty Turtle. I'm here with Dr. David Jubb, and this is jubbtalk. Don't remember to subscribe to our podcast. Every subscriber helps. And we got our topic today, day before Thanksgiving. We're just going to kind of go over some current events. And Dr. David Jubb is going to give us his take. Say hello, Doctor.
I reckon that's fantastic. Every day where you are should be some Thanksgivingness. But I mean like real integrated as it is, because that's you and I, like you, in really uptime. Because you're really in uptime, isn't it? A great day, sort of where someone is more in uptime. Can it be that we really are giving Thanksgiving versus sort of kind of, we all are cheering off, but something else might be going on. But it's sort of breaking the ice, where someone is. Because would you have a feeling that there's a lot of stubborn habits that we can look at where afterward or over ourselves, in fact, where we look at things, some things are memorable, aren't they? And a lot of things really not too memorable. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
The tipping point, though, it's a tipping point, really, where a paradigm paralysis pretty much is what you could see, and there's that set of rules has caused someone to sort of interpret things kind of in a way, and you can see how those things which could then be grown up where conflict is, for instance, it's sort of really pretty much people are talking about the same thing because that's common sense. And common sense is like in Iceland where the Eskimos are, or everyone, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, with current events, one of the big things that's happening right now is the world stage is changing. Trump will be in office in January. And right now, he's picking cabinet members, and a lot of them are disruptors. And it's great. I don't care who you are. I think it's great that our government needs some disruption. It needs to be shaken up, and we need to shake out all the excess waste. I'm excited about the DOGE. I just can't wait. And with all that going on and Trump coming into office, also you're seeing a lot of countries changing their strategies, their foreign policies, in anticipation that he's going to be there. And we're starting to see we see a ceasefire happening in Lebanon. And the Ukraine war, it seems like it's intensifying, but I wonder, Trump says he's going to finish it within 24 hours of getting in. Quite frankly, I don't believe that. However, I know he will end it quick. That is for sure. What is your take on the Ukraine war there, Dr. Jubb?
One thing is, of course, everyone could imagine themselves where any conflict is, in fact, because all of us could be a bit dissociated, isn't it? But the actual fact it is quite amazing.
Well, I'm glad I can imagine, and I don't have to be there, right? That's scary. That is so scary.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd rather be imagining it.
He's totally made, exactly. And so how does somebody get into that where things are like that? But news like the North, the East, the West, and the South is the muse a lot, and something that's within that is what we're striving for, because like our founding fathers wanted us to have self-autonomy, and we can't stand it when we're getting bullied around where something is. And also to where everybody sees that someone just gets whacked, and they have to have had quite a bit of long-nosedness where something is, but certainly something was biding time, as you point out, and something was just in time upstairs, as you were kind of alluding to. And I think the public can agree with you that a lot of furniture's just been moved around in upstairs room.
Especially in the White House.
and
But
and
okay, so it seemed like the Ukraine war was kind of not. I don't want to say expanding, but it's like now they're firing U.S. missiles into Russia, and Russia's got the North Koreans helping them fight. Um, but I'm curious. Are they going to try to escalate this before Trump gets in, or do you think they're just kind of flexing their muscles and they're slowly going to subside and come up with the ceasefire themselves?
That's a good question. It is a lot to do more or less with a personality of everybody, and it's sort of got to be something done overall a bit like that. And so, when you've got the control on hardcore, right? Yeah. You've got to have a moment when you relax off it. If you've got both sides and you're running both sides and you want kind of to keep maintaining that itself, it's sort of really something. But our president or prime minister or whoever you are, you and I, like MT is talking about, is the chain of command above what is corporate below. And a lot of the news is sort of corporate, like you were saying, and it comes in at a corporate level, really, about down at the level of the ankle. But when personality really is balanced, you are the audience and who's there communicating, they've got, like you said, a proper, more balanced orientation, haven't they? Matter of fact, here's someone at least that could tell you what the other side's view is a bit, so that's helpful, because kind of when you're biding time, you're really not doing that, you see what I mean? And then when you've got just in time upstairs to have done something, which, wouldn't you say that it was a real big control freak, like getting all the scary ants to have gone out as a program, and now you have to have relaxed off that, right? Because you can't keep control like that, otherwise it's going to just... No.
It will end.
To keep control, CB Cower has to kind of back off a bit. You know what I mean?
You know what? To keep
and
control,
that's part of the plan.
You have to have flexibility, which we talked about yesterday.
Yes, well, CB Cower has flexibility because they can, pause operation, and something is very unpredictable, but yet where there is an unpredictable benefit. Where we look at something, because it's the grist, isn't it? And that's important. The grist is really important. So, like when you're talking about a balanced orientation, you're looking at a lead whore, which is really listening, and their referential index, meaning where are they getting information from, and pretty much actually somebody who's really good at being able to give you the other side's view. That's kind of what we love. And when someone's not doing that, it's obvious, and these people are getting shut down because it's just boring as hell. Do you know what I mean? Most Americans. And so who wants to be up there? Actually, they've really got to have action. And it's no question about it. Common sense is where someone's referential index, meaning where they're getting information from, like you said, they've got a better handle on getting information from the other side. where bias is, you don't want information from the other side. No. Why? Well, because some control-y stuff is going on there. Because even if something was not right or whatever, you still want that spoken anyway, wouldn't you? Because, transparency's there.
I don't understand. I mean, the whole thing that... You know what I see about Ukraine? I may be totally wrong. I may be totally wrong. But I just think it's a big money laundering deal. We're giving them billions upon billions of dollars, and the money's just being laundered to give to here and there, and hell, maybe even Putin. I don't know, but it just seems like a big old laundering scheme, money scheme to me.
Yes, well, but a lot of attention
crazy.
Yeah, no. I think actually, like most intelligent people in America have told me the same thing, basic. But everywhere, matter of fact. I mean, why isn't it like, well, when we were saving whales, you know what I mean? We were right in there with Greenpeace, all this sort of stuff. And we were saving whales, weren't we? But today, not saving males. And I don't know that there's more 400,000 that are actually perished. And if you look into Lieben Vitching, you could see that there was exterminate the white seed and have them do it to themselves as part of a story. At the moment, of course, you've got currency held hostage, which is a big thing most are expecting, and that is for the satellites to get knocked out. So cable is the only thing that's left, and then the crew, more or less, that's running cable is sort of really currency held hostage at that point. But a dirty bomb always has been the thing that actually the crane was supposed to carry, and the Crimea was named that. You know, it was given these names because the plot which is unfolded, you know, it's a 99-year-old plot always, and then ongoing to the next one. And there's jubilee moments. With the word jubilee, it really means take a break and let people be free. And when you're in a jubilation, you really are simply empty, and you're the source of things yourself, you know. But basically, really, you've got personalities, haven't you? And you've got people in the picture, and they've got degrees of a balanced orientation in the way that they're giving information to us. And it is because first, they're referential index, they're kind of getting information from both sides, and they also are seeking agreement, which is intelligent to us because we can't stand it when people are not seeking agreement. That's one thing, that's for sure. And no one would ever say that, how could you say that the Nurses Association wasn't money laundering or yes, it is, but everything is under negative inductance. So where would you want to start? Where that is? It's sort of like the Pentagon losing, millions and billions and not knowing where it is, and nobody necessarily being responsible. But you've got an internal also and an external orientation, and somebody who's really good there, on the stage, and they're helping give us a voice, especially what the disenfranchised are, and a chance for this. And we sit above the Legislative Assembly of every state, and that's far more powerful than the president. And matter of fact, the president really needs people to have the Supreme Court to assist to help clear up matter. And so the enemy would have been in the past that people could have felt, oh, I don't, or I couldn't. But this is the tipping point, more or less, that's occurred, because you could see how anybody could be just hounded, and you've got the tail wagging the dog. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Now, let's go on to another current event. The media would have you think that the election was going to be close. Even had Kamala in other places up a couple points. And really, that all turned out to be bull dust. And I just read today that somebody key in her campaign let it out that internal polling never had her above Trump. But yet, they're trying to tell you, oh, it's going to be close, she's leading this and that. Yeah. The media, I think people more than ever agree that it's full of bull dust. And I'm hoping that we can, I hate it. I can't trust the media, especially, others more. I can't trust them more than others. But it's a shame that everybody has such a negative look at the media, and they brought it upon themselves by trying to manipulate us. And we know it, we see it, we hear it, we know we're trying to be manipulated. And I wish they would just give up the fight and just give us the facts and just report the news and let us make our own opinion about it. And
podcasts and things like that from sources, which is like a master class. People more are tuning into and getting ideas more from, because it's really like you were saying first. You've always got this created surprise, haven't you? Type of thing, like you were pointing out, it's sort of like an anticipated something, but it's like, well, we don't know, because a real scary and like you were saying is, how could that be so if you know? No, that you can't know, because that's not a, let's say, false flag, like you point out. And where corporations, it's legal for them to do PSYOP operations. They only have to have considered someone an ant as a cockroach or something, and so they could be a combat ant, and somebody's just given the name as a combat ant, you see. And so these are killable types of soldiers in an infant part of a tree of things. And shameful it is, personal, that people who are sent to situations like this could not be given their father to be the present one who was caring about the matter. But I think there's a lot of things which is going on, like you were saying, where people stopped in conflict before and they had their Thanksgiving, and then they got back to the conflict. Something is going on, like you said, which is very natural, certain, and what do we do to get back to this? But we can help, because the Supreme Court is only of we the people, and that's 26 people that sit above the Legislative Assembly and the Bureau of the Legislative Assembly of the state. And if you're in New Guinea, or you're in England, or you're anywhere, matter of fact, this is that the right that you have, which it's pre-authorised and pre-ordered, and it's under contract. And so where something is not properly contractual, it's really important that you have a court which sits over the top of that, which an Article 3 court does. Article 4 court sits over the top of government itself, and the chain of command is that from we the people. And so when is it that we acted, matter of fact, last time, and we had Article 3, Article 4, it's just that what's gone on is the monopoly has occupied the courthouse too. And so if it's okay to lie, and a prosecutor can lie, well, because under hustings, of a military dictatorship, because there is an emergency, they've got powers and acts which are really wrong, matter of fact, especially when you don't have an emergency. And then when did the emergency get stopped? I mean, it does when we form a republic at peace, and we no longer really kind of are at the mercy of a military industrial complex as a social compact.
Here's another one. Check this out. Here in Nevada, they're having a Mountain West volleyball tournament with the women's for the championship or whatever. And there's been a controversy all the last few months about the guy that's playing for the women's basketball or volleyball team in San Jose State or whatever. And that's kind of being an issue. A lot of teams wouldn't even play them; they were just forfeiting. And it's very, speaking of disruption, right? Why doesn't this trans athlete just sit out and avoid the whole issue and drama and just let people play in peace? I mean, I get it, you're trying to make your statement and this and that, but why don't you make it on a men's volleyball team playing as a girl?
Okay, so somebody could be getting a benefit, and they could be thinking they're giving us a benefit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not right, of course, the last bit. Because we don't really get a benefit from something that's like that, which is totally defies logic, like you said, doesn't even have to be talked about.
But he could play on the men's volleyball team as a woman.
No.
If they're letting him play as a man on the female, he could do the same.
Yeah, no, this is all ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's see. You've got a lot of agents, and the largest budget is the artists and society that is spent on the CAA, the Centre for Arts and Artists, and so the Centre for Arts and Artists. It sounds nice, but that's a monopoly run by things just the same as the sea. They are everywhere.
Oh, okay.
That's why it's fact. They've got a bigger budget than the CIA,
What?
which their budget is supposed to be covering, like securities exchange and things, doing their job proper.
Where are they getting this money from? The government?
This all comes more from the Great Council, which is more, you're talking about international sort of Interpol.
Okay.
And so, that's the United Nations and people that are underneath the Great Council, but everybody else is too. And so that's a bit of a problem, because organisations that are formed when they dropped all the standards in 2020 was, you've got 9 boards that are in the United Nations, and 5 of those boards are more or less controlled by a corporation, which really is much more communistic. And so would you have a feeling that your worldview, wherever you are, of course, there's something can be idiosyncratic about that? Would you have a feeling about that? And that where a system exists, like if you go to talk about having common law right in France, right, they're going to maybe look at you a bit like that's weird, because they always have been under a code for a long while and have forgotten the rights that we have, you see. But our founding fathers and everybody cared for us to have self-autonomy and free enterprise. And we can do that in a republic when we republic the debt and revenue the debt. And part of all this kind of is a reset, isn't it? Because if all the news only, just as you were saying the other day, comes from just one source, and it's always a taintedness, isn't it, about something, because something has to be sort of unexpected if we don't know where something is coming from, and that makes a true false flag sort of thing, or a psyop operation.
If you think about it, right? All these different channels with news and all that, it probably all is coming from one outlet, right? Whoever's pulling the strings, huh?
Well, we've really got perceptual filters, all of us, of course. But what bores most people actually, so they're turning a lot of that stuff off, is because most of it is sort of very immature, and everybody can see that there's some slavish need where the script writers are, and they can't help themselves, and it sort of get that slavish need stroked. And it's upsetting to the average intelligent American, or anyone actually, just the same as what it is for you. And you think to yourself, what the hell, why isn't it that these people are not deferring their own personal judgment where they are? Because you think, well, that'd be the better job that they would do. A good statesman is sort of a bit more this way. But then if they're not really deferring any judgment at all, and they're judging things, prejudging things, well, that's a thing that we don't care for too much, because that gets us into trouble. But if all our money is just being spent on war, like you started out at the program, and that's the news, it's kind of like meaning before, cognitive programming, isn't it? Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it is. Just from listening to you, we would expect that's kind of the view that you've thought. A lot of precognitive stuff isn't about what our founding fathers cared for. Some persons actually standing up for that, others not, and degrees of what this is, as you were saying. And because somebody's got some percentage of it right, we should be behind that percentage and grow it. And we should always be on the track to be focused where this is itself, until such a moment as time is sort of really more, government is actually sort of more decentralised, and everything is given as an account. And so there's really no reason for graft and all of that. but also too there would be no reason for jobbery, which is like Ferguson did with the statistics to get 2020 to go. He made all of them jump onto a jumbo jet and take off, and they had never done that with statistic before, and that was so outrageous that how come something didn't happen with that? Because all that statistic was like a very big scary ant stuff, back then in the COVID thing, and you have to have relaxed off it, can't you? Because you can't keep controlling people all the time. They just get fed up, and so the overall plan often is just like in a banana republic. You ease off a bit, then you're back on again, and ease off, and this is sort of like a historical sort of a thing. But one thing is, the Republicans have never started a war. Out of the 200 wars or so that have been started, they never have started a war. And when a war was, they kind of didn't like it, not at all, because overall they could see that it would be bad for business because people just only then sucked up most of the money and it went to military. And unless you were connected to that, what about you? It's sort of a lot of businesses that weren't and aren't recession proof because it's a typical thing that where the war is, it's no longer anybody left to negotiate and own their own estate, and somebody can have come in and taken that, which is what's going on, and then they control that estate after people have died and they've assumed the assets of it. And so it's sort of like plunder, which is wrong, really, and booty also, and these are sort of down there. They're called buy-bys, and so buy-bys as laws aren't really anything you and I voted on whatsoever. Yeah. So there's a bit of a mixing up of things. That's one thing where we would say America, most of us, we're thinking, this is the land and this is our culture and this is a culture of free enterprise and someone's self-autonomy, interrelated, perfect. And so that's what a republic is. If it functions this way, and it should, it means that we the people need to have given our opinion, and now that makes public policy. And that's where public policy comes along. But if we haven't done that, which we kind of haven't, but it isn't our fault. It really is that the system got set up in the 80s to pull private prosecution and things like that out of the courthouse. And God help us, I'll tell you, that's what they did. Why? Well, they drove everyone over onto the left side of the court as a debat whore and a credat whore, and only used terms like you're a tiff of a plaint, and gave you a commie plaint instead of a claim, and listed everything that could be, just like, oh, you can't be harmed. No, because they know a fiction can't be harmed, so that's dropped. And so the only thing that's left as a word is injury at the highest level, and that's the only thing which could happen to a corpse. And so everything has been written and drafted, so people are giving themselves to fiction. I think that's just an example of, honest to God, every single bit underneath negative induction, negative economic induction. He says, how can anything have survived? It can't. It's impossible. And I'd say there's degrees of excellence. People should focus where this is, absolutely, because all of us should be together. Because there's no question that in open sourceable, a lot of false flags have gone on, and certainly all these psyops, like you're saying. And straight up, it's that the Vice Admiralty law, under Vice Admiralty law, because a corporation is another corporate's enemy, they can get things that they can do, like lying, and so a prosecutor can lie to be able to deceive a combat ant, somebody who's listed as a combat ant. And so most people wouldn't know, but you're a combat ant because you haven't connected with the treasurer, and you're on CIS, the criminal investigation system that comes out of Bern that keeps track of everybody. And you're on that system because you didn't connect in with the treasurer. You're listed there on the CIS, and so you're an Atlanticus before the court, before you arrive there. and that's a report written on their desk before they went out to see you, and they're only going to come back to the desk that they have, not anything collected from you, because you're an Atlanticus, you're listed this way, you're listed as a Phyllis Nillis for sure, because your BC bond and the paperwork showed your mother to be an informed aunt, and so she became an aunt as well. And that's not right to give everybody only a definition of being an aunt, you see. But the other definition of someone being right is only a line through the sense sort of word. And so that's not right either, you see. Yeah.
I do. And we're going to take a break, folks. We'll be back before you know it. All right, we're back. Didn't even know we were gone, huh? Anyways, Dr. Jubb, why is the Democrat Party so ridiculous?
Okay, so, well, in the two-party system around the earth, you've got Labor and Liberal, and you've got Democrat, Republic. You've got these types of conditions always in a two-party system, basic, that if you set that up, which that's what's been set up by, around the world, 197 corporations sort of have some sort of something that's like this a little bit, you see. But so you've got some slavish need always going on there that's being stroked, of course, because none of it actually is talk about what's the sacred cow, which is a better way to be or room for improvement. And most have got to just be given a straw man, and controlled really by the straw man and not know what to do. Because what the reason is behind why there would be control, and so the Democrats are more like controlled by the Great Council's ideas, feverishly. And why would it be then that in history, of course, they're the only ones that ever started a war, and they've all been about war and things, and is that everyone's experience? I think most people you talk to, like what you were saying at the beginning of the program, you've got a slavish need that's being stroked right there, and nobody there is deferring their judgment whatsoever. They want to jump into something, and every single person that you talk with afterward, if they're alive as they are, they give evidence that there's no plausible deniability whatsoever for them. So they all get off in thinking that there is, but that hindsight bias is not evidence of some plausible deniability. If you've got hindsight bias, it means you were biased, you see. You just weren't acting upon that bias. Wow. That can be an accessory to crime, as you know. I mean, every official has limitations on what their discretion can be based upon an equity interest all of us have as we the people in a natural right being upheld, and title is that right, you see. Yeah. So when did we decide sort of to become more literal, for instance? Like you were saying, what's going on is something is often being said, and then the opposite is going on. And how can we know? Because a true psyops is like, well, you don't know what's coming or going, you know what I mean? And that's sort of, it's done that way. And
and the party seems to be very deceptive. I'll tell you that. I mean, we all knew Biden's mental cognitive abilities or whatever. It's just not there for somebody to. I mean, I always thought that the job of president's important. We need somebody that can, handle it mentally, physically, and he just went up to the job. But they were deceptive.
But what if they're playing good cop, bad cop, like sort of thing going on.
They were deceptive with Harris.
Well, criminal bank cartel of one world order behind things have their own. What this agenda is itself, and not that even public opinion or care is, because we're controlly is in every other way. Big deal about everything else, because it's just like the businesses actually controlled the whole scene anyway. But most people are a bit fed up with the name, place, time stuff, which really is, where you can hear people are not really talking necessarily very literal in the news or even about the news much sometimes. But we could say one thing and you could see most people doing the opposite. And we really, of course, use the time to be far more improved, and that takes time to do that. But trying to get attention from name, place, time, which can't, is truly disgusting and terrible. Trying to pass on a memory that someone has, whether a democrat or anyone, it's going to really not go over well. They're going to get kicked off the stage. If they're trying to pass an experience on too, with the immaturity where someone is like representing us, all of us can't stand it. Matter of fact, it's boring as hell where anybody does that, and that's part of the reason why most people don't really want to connect with family people and that sort of thing. But because most of these people are really trying to get attention for some reason, and it's obvious that it's not that office was not for rent, it's actually for rent, you see, because these people don't have the proper paperwork behind to say that there wasn't influence in them getting the job. And so all of it really is, getting shut down as can be, because most people really don't want that sort of language. It doesn't really work. And you've got subject, object, verb, where logic is, of course, and you've got a logical rational continuum, but where a logarithm is changed, because 78% gets something passed on, and 22% could be against something, but 23% suddenly we don't want to really pass something on. And so those logarithms being played with by a monopoly and only having a Google mind, like you were saying, is as an example of astroturfing. It's like getting sort of an artificial base, but not a real base.
Not only artificial, but like I said, they were deceptive about Biden. They were deceptive about Harris during the campaign. And then the media was deceptive the whole time. And I think people are just tired of it. They're tired of the deception. They're tired of being treated like kids. And I think the party is guilty of putting themselves before anything else. And that's a problem.
Well, the very thing for us is an Equal Responsibilities Act. And that Equal Responsibilities Act would be, where's we the people in the picture of it? And you couldn't just have a corporate interest where something is only controlling whatever happened. And that would just require more of us to be more self-initiated ourselves. And where do we find that, matter of fact, you see? But I think that perceptual filters where anybody is, it's like if they don't have who, what, when, where, how in an order like that, and they've gone on to when, for instance, but we don't know who or what, it's sort of really like very stressful where people are. If only somebody's stressful, they're going to mention times and things like that before who and things. But there's a structure really of a good performance and one that's terrible, of course. Most people get kicked off the stage because it's not really structured what they're doing. And so something which is very limited mind functioned overall eventually sort of wears most people down where that is. The character that you're talking about, where those players are, they slowly but surely sort of wear on everybody and it wears off, you see. And so they always are getting kicked off the stage because it's a really terrible performance, and most people really find whatever is boring universally. We do, you see, but we love it. We'll give you a clap and we love it that you came up there and stuff, and you get a 1 or a 2, but you're off the stage and that's honest, because it's really not proper structure at all, where somebody is making things that's deviant acceptable, you see. So in our culture, for instance, we wouldn't be cared too much that somebody is not able to show their face. It's a bit strange to us because a baby and everybody sees your face, and then all of a sudden if you can't do that, it's like what the reason is. Most people would agree, like I've heard, they don't want people coming in to get coffees with balaclavas on and stuff. And because most people really would love to be able to see and be aware of everyone. You have that freedom to be expressed. So, but what grabs attention really is what motivates us actually, and that's more your growth, your awareness of acknowledgement and learning and achievement. And so these things really, otherwise, there's a bit of a state of alienation and enemy, and rightfully so, because that's not expressing actually what should be expressed or could be. But we shouldn't fault what is good and is some percentage that's right and is on a track towards something better. We should do what we can to get things better and better. And everything takes steps as it is. But you're really hard pressed to see who's good, of course. Certainly you can see that, and who's terrible. And then who's sort of there that's just generalised stuff, maybe not right, and that bothers us big time. Or they're just deleting a lot of information, mate, and distorting it, you see. So how many miles does someone have to go, really, to be able to be a better scout, but have to travel several times the distance that an ordinary person would to bring back evidence to people that actually then everybody flocks more? But somebody would have got kicked off the stage, mate, if they jumped into name, place and time, because this is called a content sorter, and there is no structure with it. And typically there's a lot of a selective mutism that goes on where that is. You see, that someone will get locked into one person or one component of something, like you see in these debates and stuff. Everything else gets locked out. And it's an example of mutism, psychological mutism, and it's the very reason why people avoid conversations and stuff where people are in their home and stuff generally, because it often really is a bit of a slavish going on, unchecked. Getting stroked and stuff like that. But content sorters, as you were saying, damn it, at the beginning of the program, you just said these people, all they're doing has been rearranging furniture in an upstairs room. That's been bad. And Biden time was needed for that, you see, phase. And as you said, wax on, wax off. And if you wax on, you wax off, and you just keep it going like that. It's sort of like not too disruptive. But when it becomes too contrasted, now our brain goes, wait a minute, this is just not right, you see. But could it have become the most contrasted because of COVID? What was COVID, you see? Could it become the most contrasted because all of us see how dead the United Nations is, like really crazy and wrong? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And how bye-byes are running around, and of, as a verb which is above bye-bye, doesn't get any worth anywhere because it doesn't have clout, because from, which is we the people, haven't got together where these strife is to help fix things up as they can and should, because a lot of stuff otherwise has just gone on corporate, as you were saying, and it's way, way down at the ankle level, and people are fed up and tired and sick of that sort of thing, actually. They would care very much that stuff gets straightened out, and this is really more the new reset, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah? Oh, yeah. Because otherwise everything is just wasting time, and it's just all memory learning and behaviour is state specific. And if somebody's in pleasantry, they're getting into their frontal cortex. And if they were in aversion with a lot of don't, won't, can't, should, try, but, must only, the order of import really doesn't exist much there. And only that somebody could have only not known, of course, but they were shut down themselves, not operating from their frontal cortex at all, and engaging others where something would be just shut down for others as well. And an Equal Responsibilities Act is really you and I or anyone caring. Where is the actual responsibleness? Because somebody should be able to, as you said, they perfectly could tell you what the other side, what the other view is. And it's like, really? I said, yeah. I said, well, that's certainly important, because when that hasn't been going on, you could see how dastard all that is. But also, who is seeking agreement is intelligent, and who is seeking agreement with their adversary straight away is the most intelligent thing you can do. And so there's some acting, of course, we all would look and see, there's a certain level of integration, meaning it's like flow between the parts, congruency, because there's a parallel type of a sorting where you're seeing it, and who's showing up in the moment more, giving you and I what should we have, which really is all of us. We should be getting off our butts and doing our job to help the corporation, and like me, to have given my trust to the corporation and to help pay the bills. And so we could do that if you were the Sukupati creditor and you care about things that's on a level like this. You care very much that survival is, and you care very much what infrastructure is. And you're caring about things on a level like this because that makes sense. And for us or anybody to change where things are, that you have to value where things are conflicted, and then somebody's sort of got a better grassroots handle on it, haven't they? Because they can tell you what the common ground is between both sides, sort of thing. Whereas where news, like we started out, it's so right. I think what you said is kind of been news of the day, doesn't matter when it was, because you've got this sort of scary ant type of stuff going on, polarising sort of stuff, things which people have to deal with, and like a president or anybody. But if you and I, we remain more as a man, as a woman, and simple. It is the title of what this is. You've got rights that flow from it, but we don't, like you were saying, if we call ourselves a mental set, like some basket case, and if doesn't matter what the good name felt to us, it's sort of like a basket case because it's a behaviour or something, but it's really not your identity, as you were saying. Title flows from the right, and title flows from the words we use and our understanding of things in contract and that. And where corporations only been, you've really got a dead man statute, you've got adverse counterclaims showing up as contraband at the courthouse, because abandoned claim was, which no one knew, a maximal amount of monies was shipped off that, and it was done so a private group could more profit from it, and that's not we the people, you see. So massive fraud goes on where prison and court bonds are and things that's like this. And why would you want to start there? I mean, you could, but there's so many things that you would want to start, and it's just we the people looking at where transgression exists beyond what should be, because otherwise you're going to have a dead man. Under a dead man statute, people are losing their property, and they're losing their property because an infant decedent is having a hearsay with an infant decedent, as you were saying, basic, under a corporation, not as a man. But as we meet more on a level of our livingness, this is sort of really got the most supreme power, in fact. And so that is we the people who are your peers, and your peers really are your judge. And so it behooves everybody to be more impartial, certain, but then like being more literal and taking the time to be more in an athletic endeavour of what literalness is. We would spend, you could see people avoiding actually growing within themselves by less than, giving the time to be the things that would be more literal per se, but in eye awareness, which is an empty centre point, and care simple, you've got to adopt behaviours wherever those things are, and this gets chipped away to come more toward what this is. And so you're bite-sized chunking things down where anything is, as we're moving more towards something which is a golden age. And this is positive inducted currency. That currency is based upon an asset which it's backed. And so it's asset-backed currency. And so that's positively inducted by being verified on a verified server. And so people just fed up with just a whole and why would you say that just this era is different from any other? I don't agree. I think that most everything, as you were saying, is a metaphor of things going on, and hasn't and isn't something that all of a sudden is unique at all. But contrasting things cause us to be able to really see where the present is, and the gift is something more unwrapped, isn't it? And where someone is attached to being deeply asleep, or they're attached to dreaming, or they're attached to being wakeful, and yet being aware really is more, omnipresent, and what's the future more in history that we have, that we can take hold of more, and we've got the faculty to inspire creative influence.
I also read a headline today where a Dem lawmaker in New York wants to secede to Canada. I mean, I say go for it, let them do it, and the Democrats will never win a election ever again if that happens. So go for it.
Well, where someone is secede itself doesn't mean someone isn't open for credit and debit, where they are and part of a system itself. Most it is, like you're pointing out, where words are used, it's sort of really to do more with someone's capacity to manage their own affairs relative, and some sort of a condition much more to do with self-autonomy as a state or as a nation, because no one wants to just be controlled, and everybody's looking, what the hell do we need to do? But I would say nothing is needed except we the people actually participating in the Republic, and participating by forming circles which are the Supreme Court, and getting Article 3 and Article 4 to be over the top of contracts, like you were saying, and government, and to help those people who really are, doing the right thing for us as they can, given a circumstance of a condition which is really trying and difficult, and something which they can often not necessarily know about themselves. I think my heart went out to Trump when I saw him in 2020, genuinely being concerned, honest to God, about the whole circumstance of this COVID. But where things are paced towards someone, and you've got priming having gone on, and you've got groupthink around and things, nobody's going to say those things don't influence where anyone is. God help us, right?
Well, check this out. If Hillary would have won and was president, COVID would have never happened. We would have never saw it.
I don't know that anybody actually that would have been against COVID during the time of it, like what happened in Pakistan, for instance. Even somebody popular was just quickly knocked out because they didn't want to go along relative with the COVID thing. But I think that what a Google mindset is, only that you could say something is acceptable, something's not, and it's not verified, it's terrible, it's the worst that it's ever been. And we had a little freedom a bit for a moment in time where internet was, but until such a moment it's all got reined in, just the same as newspapers were or anything else. And it's come back to be something more like that. But within it, something is a fractal of this, where people are looking, like they're looking at what's redacted, what's missing, because criminals always have criminal behaviour, which is very predictable.
Which is redacting.
Yeah. Because none of us redact.
Who is the only one you ever see out there redacting stuff? The government.
Well, for the prosecution, where the courthouse is, and you've got Vice Admiralty Court, that comes from the ex-Judge, which really is a courthouse that was brought up to actually collect a tax for the Crown, and people rejected it. That was really difficult. But slowly it's crept in there. But it really always was rejected. None of us actually cared for having anything like that whatsoever. But here's what we arrive at today. We have a Second World War, tax gets kicked off, which never was before. Donald Duck helps that. And Disneyland is sort of like a woolly hood, just like bullyhood. And no one will say that a monopoly isn't existed when you've just got one hand that's paying the piper, basic, you see, around the world. And that is the tragedy that exists. But if you and I, that's not the question at all. It is the question more, do you and I not care to control ourselves? Because it absolutely is nature that if we don't control ourselves internal, we would be controlled. But we could be that having done to us because advantages for someone else and themselves, and they don't mind if we don't mind, sort of thing. Well, most people do mind, and what's insensual isn't consensual. So to insent means just that silent, a silent condition existed of acceptance, but that's really not right quite, is it? Because the big thing that you're concerned is where somebody's been disenfranchised, they've been doing the right thing, they really get hammered. You really care about where this person is themselves, and and hope is far more, because pieces of what this is far more accurate in ourselves, and it's more genuine because it's got intelligence, because it's seeking agreement immediately, so that, as you said, that 90-second before doom craziness, you know, control-y, like you said, but it doesn't lead to a long life, all that sort of news, does it? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And with that, we're out of time. Dr. Jubb, please leave us with something, especially during these holidays, that'll make life just simpler and easier.
Where everyone is in their life, Eating Slender strategy is where somebody totally has thought about how does this feel afterward, and they make a decision on what to do by what it feels like afterward. And these people, like Stoics, have learned an ancient Greek sort of philosopher who came along and gave us sort of Stoicism and stuff. And it's a great story how that comes about and everything. But great goodness about it is just that people who are Eating Slender strategy and they're doing things really well, they always have thought to themselves, how will it be afterward, and how much could I do? And then I feel good. It goes, okay, well, I think that's okay. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But that's probably one of the better strategies, yeah. So
Excellent.
you're living simply, others can simply live, mate. You know what I mean?
And I got something, well, actually, nothing. It was just a question. Whatever happened to a government by the people, for the people? I mean, is that still the case?
Yes, it is, absolutely, because it's only the one that's contractual under the Magna Carta, and it doesn't matter wherever you are in the world, every single thing is contractual, absolute, and what's legal is down of the gal of the lee. It's little unilateral, and that unilateral is sort of to do with equity, a cup of tea for someone, but maybe not you or I. And those unilateral bye-byes that have been done are so far down there, of course, are only called bye-byes, and you have the bye-byes, you see. But of is higher than bye-byes, and of is far more accurate in determining whether some crime has existed, and from, though, is the best, you see, because there you have enforcement. Yes?
Yes.
From. And that verb from only can come from the Supreme Court, which is we the people. 26 of us, you see, gathered.
Maybe we should have an episode of that, because I do question. I just really see it's more like a government by a party for a party.
Yeah.
And then just...
Exactly.
I think a lot of people...
Otherwise, you're right.
Yeah.
It is, And no matter what, it's only that, matter of fact, until it's changed around, because you're only getting corporate sort of news, which is boring to you, which I think most Americans kind of is just like, they want to get it more exciting and get into
I think they just
actual
want the
human
truth.
relation and get things cleared up
I think
and
people-
get a real reset, you see,
People
versus...
are excited for the truth. That's what they want.
Well, the truth really is that
We
we
can
are
take it.
sit above it.
We can
You
take
know what I mean?
it.
And
All
we're
right,
the ones.
folks. You guys be safe out there. I know there's a lot of crazy traveling. Just be safe and say hi and smile to one another on the roads. Take us out. Yep.
Bye.